Hello and welcome to another edition of the Bastard Review. This time around I'm looking at ECW Cyberslam 99. This event took place on April 3rd, 1999 in the ECW Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We start off the night with Jerry Lynn taking on a newcomer to ECW, Yoshihiro Tajiri. Honestly, this was a pretty good match, a really good opener. There was some back and forth action between Lynn and Tajiri. This is the first time we see the tarantula from Tajiri, which I love, despite it being an illegal move. We also see a beautifully done cradle pile driver from Jerry Lynn. The only drawback to this match is that there's no storyline. It's not for a title or anything, but it's a great way to introduce Tajiri to the ECW crowd. I'm giving this a 7 out of 10. After that is some stupid segment with Lance Storm and Tommy Dreamer about being on the sauce and taking piss tests. It was just stupid. Up next we get a returning Nova taking on Rod Price. Now this starts off as a singles match, but I guess turns into a tag team match when each respective partner gets involved. Now Nova's partner is Chris Chetty, and Price's partner is Skull Von Crush. You might recognize him as Vito from WCW and the WWE. This was a horribly boring, below average match. They just didn't do anything to excite me and get behind one of them. And including their partners was pointless because it didn't go anywhere. A time waster that didn't deserve to be on this card. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. Up next we get Super Crazy taking on Mosco de la Merced. And let me first say that Mosco has the stupidest costume on. I realize in Lucha the costumes can get outlandish, but this just looks retarded, and I can't take him seriously as a wrestler. He must not have lasted long, because I couldn't even find a profile on the guy. This was your average Lucha match, high-flying, but there's very little story going on. They supposedly have a rivalry down in Mexico, but it doesn't really help to make this match mean anything. It's all flesh with no feeling, but I'm going to be charitable and give it a 5 out of 10. After that, we get the return of Taka Michinoku, who hasn't been seen since ECW's first pay-per-view, Barely Legal. He takes on another lucha from Mexico who I've never heard of, Papi Chulo. And you know, I get the feeling that I've seen this match before, and I pretty much have. It was the last match I watched. The only difference, instead of two Mexican wrestlers, it's a Mexican and a Japanese wrestler. It's just another filler match with no storyline, no rivalry, just a bunch of moves that are pretty to watch but mean nothing. I'm going to give this another 5 out of 10. Up next, finally, something with a little bit of a storyline. A returning Too Cold Scorpio takes on Rob Van Dam for the ECW World Television title. Now these two men had faced each other back at Living Dangerously 98, and I believe this was the second match they had together. I question why this is a title match. It kind of comes out of the blue, especially since this is Too Cold's return match. They do a really good job of getting the crowd involved, which is a welcome change from the prior two matches. Another gripe that I have is that they dive out into the crowd. This is the third or fourth match on the card that has done it. I think that was a mistake. I think this should have been the only match to have a dive out into the crowd. To have multiple matches do similar spots takes away from all of the matches and makes them less memorable. They had some outside interference from Sabu and Bill Alfonso, which I thought was unnecessary. If this title match had been built up and there had been weeks of build up, I could understand them interfering, but this was Too Cold's return match and it was a title match out of the blue. So I think booking their interference was uncalled for. Still, it was a good match, it was fun to watch, and it was great to see Too Cold back in the ECW ring. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. After that, we have Taz defending his ECW World Heavyweight title against Chris Candido in a Falls Count Anywhere match. They went all over the arena in this match, which made sense, but I think there was only one cover outside of the ring which was really disappointing considering the stipulation. The ending was really odd too. I think it was their attempt to make Taz into a heel, but half of the crowd was cheering, so it didn't really do its job. While there is some story behind this, there's no promotional package, and it's been a good 4 months since Candido's been in the ring after suffering his injury at House Party 99. Maybe if they had built this up at the beginning of the show, it would have felt more like a title match, and the ending might have worked. Not bad, but it could have been so much better. I'm giving this a 7 out of 10. Up next, we have Shane Douglas taking on Just Incredible, and this was a nice little match. They've got a little bit of history. Justin wants to prove himself as the new franchise of ECW. I like the chaotic ending. In fact, you could argue that this is the birth of the Impact players. But again, this match falls short because there's no promotional package. And I found out after doing some homework that there were no consequences to this match. A decent match, but there's nothing that makes it memorable. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. Finally, we come to what should be the main event, but the video that I have conks out about halfway through the match. It's Bubba Ray and Devon Dudley and Mustafa taking on Axel Rotten, Balls Mahoney, and New Jack in a Ultimate Jeopardy Steel Cage match. If you're wondering what that stipulation is, think of the War Games from WCW, only 6 men instead of 8. And every 30 seconds or a minute or whatever the time limit is, a new person comes into the cage, and nobody can be pinned until everyone's in the match. TNA also do a variation called Lethal Lockdown. It's an okay stipulation. It's best if it's used once in a blue moon, because it takes a long time for the wrestlers to get into the match, and by the time everyone's in it, you're ready for the match to be over with. You know, I'm not going to rate this match because I haven't seen it all the way through. Overall, ECW Cyberslam 99 is a barely above average show. Really nothing on here that you have to go out of your way to watch, and it's kind of disappointing that they include this show in their Best of ECW line. ECW Compilist will want it for their collection, but if you're just a casual fan, like I said, there's nothing here worth checking out. I'm giving this a 6 out of 10. Thank you for listening. Please tune in again to another Bastard review when I review another wrestling DVD in my collection, or anything else that crosses my path.